conference, speakers, and guests. On behalf of the conference organizers, the Graduate School of Public Policy, Nazarbayev University, and SDSN, Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we welcome you to Nazarbayev University. My name is Serik Orazgaliyev. I am an associate professor at the Graduate School of Public Policy, and I am a chair of the organizing committee for this conference, organized by Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which today's event is the first SDSN conference on the general theme of sustainable development in Central Asia, and we intentionally kept the theme of the conference broad enough to welcome a wide spectrum of researchers working on different areas of sustainable development. And I can say that I'm extremely proud that we will be able to host such an array of conference speakers, mostly researchers, but also practitioners working in the field of sustainable development. Reading our concise, but at the same time rich program, I really look forward to attend all the fascinating sessions of the conference. And now, without delay, let me introduce our next speakers. I'm extremely delighted and honored to introduce our speakers this morning. To begin with, let me invite for his opening remarks Mr. Shigeo Katsu, the president of Nazarbayev University. I must note that Mr. Katsu is a co-chair of a new SDSN, and he has been supportive of SDSN mission and initiatives even when the SDSN project was only an idea, which dates back to pre-pandemic and pandemic times. So without further delay, I invite Mr. Katsu for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Serik. Good morning, everybody. It gives me certainly great pleasure to open our, I think it's the first SDSN Kazakhstan meetings. Thank you for all of you who participate, especially those also who are joining us online. I think as Serik nicely pointed out, the three key themes, today's sessions, land, water, communities, energy and climate, as well as education, partnerships, cover a broad range of our 17 SDGs, and I'm sure that all of us will find something particularly interesting there. I note that this network that Serik has been very much actively pushing and promoting. Oh, sorry. Today already counts 25 network members in Kazakhstan alone, and so I think it points really to the acuteness of the issues at hand. We also today have from our Kazakhstan network 2 universities from Almaty. The Almaty Management University in Nazarbayev here in person. I don't know whether Alma also is here in person or not. Hope so. Can you raise your hand so that I can acknowledge you? Yeah. And also I understand that Karaganda is widely represented. I see Buketov there, but I also understand that the Karaganda Medical University and Soyuz University is with us. Yes. Thank you for joining. And also 2 universities from Central Asia, the National University of Uzbekistan, as well as also Kimil International University, both from Uzbekistan. And then we have obviously international partners today, and let me first obviously thank John, and I try to verify how to pronounce his very, especially for Japanese, very difficult to pronounce last name, Thwaites. Okay? who is the chairman of the SDSN International Network. So it's a great honor for us to have you here. But I also would like to welcome, if they're already online, the SDG Access Network from Gießen University in Germany, as well as also the University of Athens, Serik Institute, Serik standing for Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Forum, from Urumqi, and also a participant, probably at this time maybe not yet online, who knows, but from the SDSN Anderson in Latin America. So we're going to have great regional, global reach today. So I certainly look forward. Now, and at the end we also have an SDSN youth session where our students will also share with the participants their activities as well. Now, let me share with you some of my own thoughts about the SDG and SDSN agendas. We know that, as the millennium came, we first had an excitement about the Y2K possible events. I mean, at that time, nobody really knew whether our computers would be up to, absorbing the massive data change, and thought, oops, maybe they will all collapse, etc. So that was the Y2K as we started. Probably many of you younger colleagues probably don't even remember, but middle-aged people like me, for us it was a big source of angst. And then the international community started to think that we need to galvanize the international society, international community for some of our global issues. And after a few years, something called the Millennium Development Goals were put together. And at that time, there were 8 Millennium Development Goals. Although they started to have some traction over time, I think after about 10 years into the decade, it became very clear that the Millennium Development Goals had to evolve into something that could really capture the imagination, not only of experts, but of the public, and would really bring everybody together. So a group of, if I recall, of eminent persons were put together under of United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And out of it came the proposals for the Sustainable Development Agenda and SDG, Sustainable Development Goals 2030. And there's a sort of a parallel intellectual and enabling element to do a lot of the analytical and support work coming from academia and think tanks and other experts. Jeffrey Sachs was key in putting together the SDSN's Sustainable Development Support Network. And again, we are very grateful for John to join us today. I think it's going to be a marvelous presentation that he's going to put together. Now, when I talked about, said that to bring the sort of the imagination, not only imagination, but sort of a sense of the urgency of the public together. I think, people look at, sustainable development goal very often in the abstract. It's only when things start to really gel even individually in their minds that this is something that I need to really pay attention to. That's when I think the urgency with which we all ought to feel about the SDG agenda starts to come to the fore. And probably it's unfortunate that these things start to come to the fore when you're associating them with disasters. Famine, drought, general, very sort of, unfortunately, very negative events. And all of them are linked, and this is when we start to also see that we talk about water and land management, we talk about agriculture and sustainable growth, crop production. We talk about how to manage, mitigate at least the biggest challenges that climate change. All these things are, in the end, we find out, not solvable just by taking a very individual, siloed approach to discipline. That's where the SDG agenda, and in particular also climate change, has to really be approached from an interdisciplinary viewpoint and interdisciplinary approach. Now, we just looked up the statistics at Nazarbayev University's research, for instance, and it turns out that about 1/3 of our publications throughout our existence, consciously or unconsciously, actually cover various aspects of the SDGs, the 17. 1/3. Sounds impressive, no? But the fact is that they are mostly still siloed. They are in their individual disciplines. And we really now need to move forward in taking this interdisciplinary approach. All the issues are interconnected. It's also the one subject, and you can pick up whatever of these 17 points that really ought to bring our community together. Now, I look forward, therefore, to today's discussions, and hopefully at the end of the day, we will be able to try to sort of look forward and start to identify directions in which we want to go together as SDSN Kazakhstan. Let me just conclude by talking a little bit about, and some of you have already heard me talking. It's a book called If Nietzsche Were an Hour, and the subtitle above it says, What Animal Intelligence Reveals About Human Stupidity. It's a psychologist who, and he tries to delve into what sets humans apart from animals. And there's a level of human intelligence that humans tend to think they're superior to animals, a level of conscience consciousness that we don't know how to attribute it to animals. So for instance, he gives these examples of human beings, or animals actually, especially mammals, that we are able to observe a little bit more. Mammals know how to self-medicate. You go to the bush or whatever, or you observe your own dogs and so, and they feel sick, and so they go to certain, start to eat herbs and but they don't really know why. They don't ask themselves the question, why? Humans obviously ask themselves why. That's what it is the basis of our critical thinking and the quest for knowledge and hopefully the fruit. But of course we also know that this quest for why we ask these questions, it leads to development in science, can also lead to development of destruction, form of destructive weapons. So the humans are uniquely able to come up with things that can destroy us. Now, another part that sets humans apart from animals is, according to this book, is, interestingly enough, human beings are pretty much the only species that have a sense of time. Although recent research shows that, for instance, big mammals such as elephants also have such. But human beings think about the past, the present, and the future. Pretty unique in that sense. And so, human beings, smart as they are, also develop the sense of how do you measure time and how you attach value to things in a time context. If you're an economist, you think about discount rates, present value. Okay. Now, at the same time, while we do this, human beings also have this unique ability to just value the present so much that they discount the future. And in the context of when we talk about climate change, one of the most pressing issues that we face. Well, we've seen it in the repeated COP, and so in the Conference of the Parties, in Paris 2021, and then now we are 26. Great promises are made, but action is always lacking. Why? And that is because humans have this ability to think rationally about the future, but emotionally cannot connect. And it seems that we are able to always say yes for the sake of our children, grandchildren. We really need to do this. But then, at the end of the day, hard day's work, and so we forget about this. And say tomorrow is not, but we can do actions. It means that I'm very sorry, and I should, in terms of my middle-aged generation, really apologize to our students, to the young people. Because we are able to rationalize what may happen in the future, but simply don't do enough. And we are doing things that may, in a way, portend the end of the human race. Sometimes, some people say in a few thousand years, or million years, others say maybe in 200 years. And this book, it concludes that after all, the human race may be in aberration, it may be dead end as a species, in evolution. Let's hope it's not going to be the case, but I hope to convey to you a little bit of a sense of why we all have to have a sense of urgency. Okay? Thank you very much, and let's have a great day.